Marginal note: study schedule for the winter semester 1786-87. Monday, 11 to 12, Longinus. 4 to 5, review of physics. 5 to 6, collegium on De Officiis. 6 to 7, De Officiis. After dinner, De Officiis. Tuesday, 11 to 12, private essays. 4 to 5, Longinus. 5 to 6, weekly review, hebdomad. 6 to 7, Longinus. After dinner, Longinus. Wednesday, 11 to 12, private essays. 2 to 4, De Officiis. 4 to 5, mathematics. 5 to 6, Longinus. 6 to 7, Longinus. Friday, 11 to 12, translation of Virgil. 2 to 4, Homer's Iliad. 4 to 5, Greek Tristomathy. 5 to 6, collegium on De Officiis. 6 to 7, De Officiis. After dinner, De Officiis. Tuesday, January 2nd, 1787. A day like most others. In the evening I excerpted passages from Heine's Excurses. Note: Christian Gottlob Heine's Excurses accompany his critical edition of Virgil, offering detailed philological commentary, mythological explanations, and textual emendations. By excerpting passages, Hegel copied select notes to aid his understanding of Virgil's language, meter, and allusions, an exercise typical for advanced gymnasium students to internalize critical apparatus and prepare for independent literary analysis. January 3rd to 7th, 1787. Observations, mathematical study, and reflections on a mistaken geometrical assumption. Wednesday, January 3rd, 1787. Tonight was to have brought a total lunar eclipse. Professor Hopp prepared several telescopes from the newly acquired apparatus in the Gymnasium for public observation. A few people came up to the observatory, but the entirely cloud-covered sky made it even the slightest viewing impossible. Rector Illuminate shared with us, among other things, an anecdote from his youth, how as a gymnasium student he had once participated in nighttime stellatum, celestial observations, but instead of seriously observing, they had merely wandered about aimlessly. When some city Philistines tried to apprehend them, the students claimed they were stellatum gegangen, to which the soldiers replied, "At night you should be in bed and go stellatum by day." Note: Total lunar eclipses occur when the Earth's shadow falls on the full moon. In the late 18th century, gymnasiums such as Stuttgart's were equipping themselves with telescopes to allow students and citizens to observe such events. Professor Hopp's newly acquired apparatus would have included a refracting telescope mounted in the school's small observatory tower. When clouds obscured the sky, no observation was possible. Rector Illuminate was Hegel's headmaster, whose anecdote about participating in a nocturnal stellatum, from Latin stella meaning star, lampoons how students would claim a scholarly purpose, to go stargazing, to evade authorities. The city Philistines refers to townspeople unfamiliar with academic life, and the soldiers' reply, "At night you should be in bed, and go stellatum by day," wittily inverts the student's pretext, insisting that celestial observations belong to daylight astronomy rather than midnight wanderings. Thursday, January 4th, 1787. From 1 to 2 p.m. I visited Haugen, the son of the court instrument maker, where I saw a clock that played beautifully in the tone of a flute traversière. Later in the day, from 4 to 5 and from 6 to 7, I excerpted passages from Heine's first excursus on Aeneid II. Otherwise, the day followed its usual routine. Note: Haugen refers to the son of the ducal court instrument maker in Stuttgart, whose workshop displayed mechanical timepieces that integrated musical mechanisms, such as a clock voiced in the tone of a flute traversière. In the late 18th century, such automata exemplified the fascination with clockwork precision and the adaptation of woodwind timbres, the transverse flute being prized for its clear, agile sound, into horological devices. Later in the day, Hegel's excerpting from Heine's first excursus on Aeneid II signifies his practice of copying philological and mythographic commentary. Heine's notes elucidated the historical background of choice fall, Virgil's poetic choices, and intertextual allusions, so that he could internalize both the language and the critical insights of a leading edition. Friday, January 5th, 1787. From 9 to 10, I excerpted material from a volume of the Allgemeine Deutsche Bibliothek relating to editions of Demosthenes. From 10 to 12, I visited Griesinger, son of the consistorial counselor. There I saw Doppelmayer's Atlas Caelestis and the entire library of his father. I borrowed the second volume of Kistner's Mathematics. In the afternoon, I read and excerpted further from a new volume of the Allgemeine Deutsche Bibliothek. From 5 to 6, we had an extra Longinus session due to the upcoming holiday. After dinner, I read from Kistner's Mathematics, Volume 2. Note: the Allgemeine Deutsche Bibliothek was a leading German scholarly journal founded 1767, containing reviews and critical essays on literature and classical editions. Hegel's focus on editions of Demosthenes reflects contemporary philological debates over the Greek orator's text and its various commentaries. Griesinger, son of the consistorial counselor, belonged to a prominent Stuttgart family, whose father served on the ecclesiastical consistory, the church's governing council. Their private library included rare works like Johann Gabriel Doppelmayer's Atlas Caelestis, 1742, a comprehensive star atlas used for astronomical instruction. Johann Christoph Kistner's Mathematics, Volume 2, was a gymnasium-level textbook covering advanced geometry and algebra, which Hegel borrowed to supplement his mathematical studies. The extra Longinus session from 5 to 6 p.m. refers to an additional class on the Sublime, in anticipation of the holiday on January 6th, Epiphany, ensuring the material was covered before the break. Saturday, January 6th, 1787. I spent the morning until 10:30 working on trigonometry. Then I visited Professor Hopp to seek clarification on a difficult passage in Kistner's Mathematics, Volume 2, 1765, page 159. My misunderstanding had arisen from the false assumption that the poles of any circle on a sphere are always a quadrant away from all points on its circumference. From this, it would follow, absurdly, that only great circles on a sphere could have poles. Professor Hopp himself had initially agreed with my statement, but only later did I realize the error and thus resolved it myself. In the afternoon, I visited Steinkopf, who was of great service to his grandfather, the antiquarian Betulus, now growing old, and carries out most of his many burdensome duties. In the evening, we played the geographic card game, which is almost the same as Turok, except that it includes more variations and penalties and lacks Turok's the Cis or the Bagot. After dinner, I resumed study of spherical trigonometry, which no longer seems as difficult as it once did back when I had yet to begin it. Note: Kistner's Mathematics, Volume 2, 1765, page 159, Johann Christoph Kistner's gymnasium-level text covered plane and spherical geometry. Hegel's error stemmed from conflating small circles with great circles. Only a great circle has its pole, antipodal point, exactly 90 degrees from every point on its circumference. Smaller circles have poles at angles less than 90 degrees, lying off the sphere's surface, so Hegel's assumption that poles must be a quadrant 90 degrees from all circle points was incorrect. Steinkopf and Betulius. Steinkopf was the industrious grandson of Johann Gottfried Betulius, 1720 to 1787, a respected Stuttgart antiquarian who amassed manuscripts, coins, and antiquities. As Betulius aged, Steinkopf carried out cataloging, correspondence, and the daily upkeep of his grandfather's extensive collection. Geographic card game, Turok variant, this learning game employed playing cards printed with place names, rivers, and territorial outlines, adapting the trick-taking mechanics of Turok for educational purposes. Unlike standard Turok decks, which include Turok, Cis, and Bagot cards, the geographic version replaced those with additional suit cards, introduced penalties for naming locations incorrectly, and added variations to sharpen players' geographic knowledge. Participants aimed both to win tricks and to demonstrate familiarity with European regions, making the game a popular pastime among gymnasium pupils and young scholars. Spherical trigonometry review. By revisiting trigonometric proofs and formulas, calculating arcs and angles on the celestial sphere, Hegel overcame initial difficulties. Frequent practice and clarification with Professor Hopp enabled him to understand spherical relationships clearly, so that problems which once seemed insurmountable now appeared straightforward. Sunday, January 7, 1787. In the morning, I worked on trigonometry. After lunch, the clear skies lured me outside for a walk. I yielded to their charms and gave myself a healthy hour-long excursion. On the road, I encountered countless pedestrians, riders, and carriages. In the evening, I visited Leipold in the academy. All the remaining time that afternoon and after supper, I devoted once again to trigonometry. Note: Hegel's continued work on spherical trigonometry reflects the Gymnasium's emphasis on advanced mathematics, essential for astronomy and navigation. Midday walks were encouraged for health and mental refreshment, consistent with Enlightenment ideals of balancing study with exercise. Encountering pedestrians, riders, and carriages illustrates the busy thoroughfares around the Stuttgart Academy district. The reference to Leipold likely denotes Christian Friedrich Leipold, a fellow student or junior instructor at the Ducal Academy, Hohe Karlsschule, whom Hegel visited in the evening, an example of the close social and intellectual networks among academy pupils. His return to trigonometry after supper shows the disciplined regimen of study that characterized his daily routine.